All right, so now that we know something about transformations, we're going to actually look at a couple specific examples. Our goal here for number 1 and 2 is we want to look at these parent functions. So the parent function on number 1 is this, it's the absolute value. Parent function on number 2 is this parabola, the u shape, x squared. And we want to describe what does the second function, what does g of x do in terms of moving it? Does it move it up or down, left or right? Does it stretch it, and so on? And here's kind of a guide to help us. I just took the example of a parabola, but the same reasoning applies to absolute value. So this number out front, the a number, tells us if it's greater than 1, meaning if it's a number like 2, that's going to vertically stretch it, which means horizontally it will compress it. Okay, this one actually, this is a typo, I'm sorry, that should say shrinked. It's going to vertically shrink it, which means horizontally it will expand it, or another word would be stretched. So if a is less than 1, so for example, if it's a fraction like 1/2, okay, it means it would be vertically shrunk. If a is negative, if it's less than 0, it means that you're going to reflect it over the x-axis. Okay, the h number, meaning this number right here, we use that acronym that we mentioned before. Add to x, go left, and then the k tells us if we're going up or down. Add to y, go high. So we'll describe each of these, and then I encourage you again to pause the video and try it, and then we'll actually look at graphs just to verify that we got it right. So this is going to do 4 things. Let's just start with this. Add to x, go left. We're subtracting from x, so that means we're going to go right. Okay, this number is bigger than 1, and up here bigger than 1 means it's going to vertically stretch it by 2. And if you vertically stretch something by a factor of 2, that means horizontally you're going to shrink it or compress it. So this graph should be horizontally shrunk down. This negative, okay, the negative tells us, this a number, means it's going to be reflected over the, REFL stands for reflect, it's going to reflect over the x-axis. And then finally this -3 is going to move it downwards 3. Okay, so that's what the absolute value, so let's check that on a graph. Alright, so let me turn on, here's the absolute value graph, it's the black or gray one right there, and that's the V shape. So we said it's supposed to move it right 2, down 3, vertically, the 2 is going to vertically stretch it, the negative will reflect it. So let's see if that happens. So you can see it's clearly been reflected. It's at 2 right here, so it has been moved right 2. The y value is in between -2 and 4, so it's been moved down 3. And you can tell it's kind of been it's horizontally, it's been shrunk compared to the black one. Horizontally, if it's shrunk down, that means vertically it must have expanded. So that agrees with what we said. Let's try that second one, which is the parabola. So the parabola, same thing, it's going to do 4 things here. So let's think about what this is going to do. And I want you to try this if you haven't. So add to x, go left, we're subtracting from x, so that means we should go right 1. This, we're adding to y, going high, this time we're subtracting from y, so that means go down 1. Okay, this 1/3, it's a number that is less than 1. It's a fraction. That means it's going to vertically shrink down or horizontally expand. So that is going to vertically shrink, unlike the other one, which was vertically expanding, vertically shrink by a factor of 3, which means horizontally it will expand by the same factor. Just abbreviating some of these. Horizontal, HOR means horizontal, horizontally expand by a factor of 3. And then finally that negative, it says if it's less than 0, it means it's going to reflect over the x-axis. So let's actually graph it and verify that it agrees with what we said. Alright, so we'll turn off these absolute values, and then we'll kind of recenter the graph. So here's the parabola, here's the parent function right there. This one we said should move it right 1, down 1, vertically shrink, and reflect. So you can see it does all of those things. It moves it right 1 because I'll graph the line x equals 1 so you can see it. That blue line is x equals 1. It's going right through the purple graph, so it's been moved right there. Okay, and then it should have moved down 1. So there's that other blue graph, y equals -1. You see it's going through, so that works. Okay, it's clearly been horizontally expanded a lot, 3 times as wide, which means vertically it's much less than it was. And the negative has made it expand. So that agrees with everything that we said should happen. And that's exactly how we determine whether transformations have occurred and what they do. Those 4 main things: vertically stretch or shrink, vertically move up and down, horizontally right and left, and then reflect over the x-axis. Those are the 4 main ones, and we will use those quite a bit in almost every graph that you do. So if you can master it now, that would be very helpful in the future.